Um, I've known Natalie from many, many, many years ago. We were at a Dusty Strings, some kind of a workshop event, and she was at that time representing Rick Rubarth's our harps, which were wonderful, wonderful harps. And she gave a wonderful performance, and I just remember her from there. And then, after we sold our business to Nick, I was seeing lots of emails from Natalie and Dan Reeder, and they have a lot of wonderful published music for advanced harp. Most of it's for pedal harp, but it's for harp, cello, and flute. And in this day and age, anyone can publish music, but it's not everyone publishes music with integrity. And her music, it has great integrity. So. It is just very, very well done. And then in our conversations, because we were trying to figure out how to market her music, I found out that she actually studied with Linda Wood Rollo and that she has studied with Susann McDonald. So I think that what we'd like to do is, Natalie, would you just give us a few little anecdotes on your experiences with them? And I will spotlight you.
Okay, well, let me grab my notes. So you just want a little bit right now, more later?
I think you
Or,
can go do whatever you want now.
okay, well, Linda moved into town just at the time in the late 70s that my harp teacher from Oakland Symphony was moving away to go to college to become a lawyer. And Linda became my teacher and was just so wonderful because I decided I wanted to be an orchestra harpist and grew up with symphonic music in my home. And it was a natural connection for me. And Linda, I would go to her house for lessons, and she understood that as a late starter, because I began the harp at 18 and only played a little tiny bit of piano, art was my focus. She knew I would not be playing the fancy solos of standard repertoire, and she was working with all the orchestras in the Bay Area, actually, and really trained me beautifully for that. And she was always kind, she was always supportive, and kept in mind my goals and put those goals ahead of other ways of teaching. So I would say that she was giving me a lot of practical advice. And one of the things that she focused on was memorizing and interpretation of any big solo that you have, whether it's a solo harp piece or an orchestra solo. Concertos, most definitely, that memorization is key. And I know Suzanne McDonald also focuses on that. And her reason was also that when the chips are down and you have lived through some horrible situation during those days of your performance, you need to fall back on an interpretation you can always recreate. So it doesn't mean in other situations you would be able to be freer and improvise a little or change your feeling within the music. Of course, the notes would always be the same exact notes written, but the way you play it is a memorized interpretation. That stood me in good stead several times when tragedies hit literally on the day of a performance. So that was a beautiful practical way of going forward. And then also she taught projection of sound. She said, practice the way you're going to be performing primarily. And for me, that was in orchestra, getting full rich tone most of the time. Piano or pianissimo markings on orchestra parts never mean you pull back to where you would be in a tiny room and be heard. You have to project your sound no matter what. So it would be a texture change, such as high up on the string in the upper 2 octaves, give a sweet tone, but it still projects. And when you're playing harmonics, always double at pitch the harmonic note, so that even if you miss your harmonic, and who knows, how many of us that can happen, no matter how much we practice, If you've doubled that pitch, such as if you're harmonicking an A440, you would pluck the A above it quietly, and that sound still comes out and projects to the far ends of the hall. And also that your body knows the feeling of how you are playing, and projecting feels a certain way. She'd say, play from your back, play from your whole body to get sound out. It doesn't mean you don't know how to be quiet and sweet and in a chamber fashion, but that for orchestra it's projection. Placing, boy, Linda really was a stickler. Placing groups of notes before you have to play them in sequence. I learned to do that with all chord shapes and arpeggios, of course, and that practical teaching was there. Other practical skills, always be prepared, know your part before the first rehearsal. You're not going to be learning your part in rehearsal unless the music comes late, and sometimes it arrives the day of or the day before. So I would always go pick my music up at the Paramount Theater, and as many weeks before as I could, as soon as it came in, I'd go get it. And I was prepared with my parts. And then stare at the conductor. She said, have a staring contest. So that conductor knows you are watching them. And that also, no matter what your part is, of course, unless it's traveling and you have to be looking at your strings, be able to play from feel, not just reading the notes. And somewhere in some Debussy, Iberia, I believe it is, there's a section where the harps are playing. They have to be heard, but you have to follow the conductor because it's rubato. And so we memorized our parts and played that way. She was also very flexible about being creative with parts that are badly written, and we know that all the famous composers of the 19th century and first half of the 20th century had great educations, mostly in European and British schools. They knew how to write for the harp, but everybody else doesn't know how to write for the harp, hardly at all. And so if a part's badly written, figure out what the composer wants the harp to be sounding like in the piece and rewrite it, make it happen. One example would be, not accurately, that a composer doesn't know how to write for harp, but in Nutcracker, the thumb down right hand followed by thumb down left hand, rippling the What's the Flowers cadenza. I think that was conceived by Renier, but when there are two harps, you can play it the way Tchaikovsky wrote it, which is harp 2 is climbing, harp 1 is going down. So that happens easily with two harps, but hardly anyone uses two harps in Nutcracker anymore. So, but in the contemporary world, you figure out what's needed and make it happen. However, the harp would have to have that happen, and you're the authority. As a harpist, we know our instrument, we're the authority, not the composer, not the conductor, unless it's one of the greats, and then they are the authority. Another thing, be easy to work with for professional harpists. Cooperate with orchestra members. We're a team. We're not independent of that team. We're also a team with the conductor, but we also have to be with our music partners. It's chamber music as well as big ensemble. Also, always be early to jobs. I always got to the Paramount at least an hour early. And in the old days, before traffic, I had time to tune in quiet. But one of my retirement reasons was I didn't have that time anymore. So much had changed. It was time to go after 35 years. And then with Linda, I learned legacy fingerings that came from Marjorie Call, who I do believe studied with Renier. And Marjorie was in Los Angeles and of the era where she had the great harpists of that time. And there's a mistake in the notes, one of the notes of the Ravel introduction in Allegro on page 1. It's never been fixed by the publisher, but that note is handed down teacher to student. And there were many fingerings like that. So I studied the Ravel with Linda, the Debussy Trio Sonata, which I've recorded and is up on YouTube. With cello playing the viola part, it works beautifully. And so many, of course, orchestra solos, the fingerings, the two I got from Linda, and the interpretations. And now with Susann McDonald, she is really big on memorization. If you don't have the music memorized, and that goes for solos, it doesn't go for orchestra parts or even chamber music parts. But when it comes to solo repertoire, if it's not memorized, it's really not thoroughly learned. And I do find that's the case. So she was big on singing the melody. Sing the melody in solfege if you can. If not, the note names are fine. You will be memorizing your strings along with the note names as you sing the melody that way. So projecting, musicianship, and technique should always serve the music. But know your melody, be able to sing it. And once you're at speed with the music, you're not doing that. I think it goes into our subconscious and it comes out in what we're seeing and in how we hear. But when you're first learning, solfeging, note names is important. Now, years later, I did early music studies with Cheryl Ann Fulton and Shira Kamen, who's a VL player, fabulous. She's with some famous groups. And they taught singing the numbers. So it helps you if you need to transpose. But in the melodies we learned from the medieval times, understanding the steps of the scale and how the melodies move was hugely enlightening and helpful for me. I started learning all my orchestra parts much faster once I studied with them. Another thing about Susann was she was always supportive as a teacher, mentioning what was well played and why, and then making corrections to what you're doing and offering better ways to play or to learn what the music is. So she was a rare genius who can actually also teach. She also liked people's personal interpretations. I having started late and being orchestra focused, didn't get to do a lot of the big repertoire, but I did learn Hasselmann's La Source with Linda. And when I played it for Susann, it was a lot slower, or somewhat slower than lots of students would play it. But she said, I like your interpretation, Natalie. It's just very musical and beautiful. And I had to be patient. And it was a stretch for me to learn that, but it certainly served me well. She also recommended listening to existing performances. She told us when she was young, she only wanted her interpretation to be in her mind when she performed. But one time she was hired to play, I believe it was the Rodrigo Harp Concerto, and she'd never heard it. She had a whole 3 days to learn it. And for her, that was enough. But she got to the first rehearsal and she had it at half speed. And that was an eye-opener. And she had to go home that night and relearn it to be able to be played at speed. And it's, I believe, since been fixed by Rodrigo, who republished it, something like that. But she said, always listen to existing performances because you might have it really wrong if you rely only on your imagination and the printed page. So if there are existing performances, by all means listen and then follow your own instincts. So she was just a delightful and wonderful supportive teacher and passing on the strength of her understanding of music and of technique. And I feel very grateful that she was in town giving workshops, weekend workshops at Hidden Valley Camp, which is where I went. So I will always thank both of them for a great foundation. Thank you, Mary, for letting me share that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, because I never, I've talked with Linda on the phone, but I've never talked to Susann, never met her. So I missed out on that. Missed
Mhm.
out on that. Thank you very, very much.
You're
I'm
welcome.
trying to get this outline to you guys. I wanted to do haiku next. And first, I'll give you a little bit of a background on haiku. I don't want to talk too much, but years ago in Houston, uh, Eleanor Fell and Linda Wood Rollo came and they gave this kind of impromptu workshop. It was way fun. They brought two big boxes of music and they would pull out a piece of music because Eleanor Fell was the publisher with Vanderbilt. And then Linda Wood Rollo would talk about the music. And it was very, very interesting. But when they got to haiku, it was extremely interesting because Linda and Susann would go out in nature at all times of the day or night, but very early in the morning. And I remember she talked one time about they focused on a blade of grass and the dew on the blade of grass. And make, how can we duplicate that on the harp? And she had other, they saw a butterfly doing this. How can we make that sound on the harp? And I never learned any of the haiku, but recently I got in touch with Houston Audubon Society and I am going to play for one of their meditations. And I thought, what am I going to put together? And I pulled out this haiku book, and haiku is all about tiny, small sounds in nature. It is so cool. I thought, this is it. I've got my book. I know what I'm going to play. First of all, at the very beginning, they say, because of the very few pedal changes, these pieces are all adaptable to the troubadour harp. Well, I've got a little explanation there. I think way back then, all that they played was pedal harp. And if there was just a couple of accidentals, well, then it was suitable for troubadour harp. But we now know that that is not true because depending on how you tune your lever harp, it's just not going to work unless you really carefully think it out. Haiku. Here's the foreword, the first page of the book. Here's the table of contents. I'm just zipping through this kind of fast. But a haiku is a traditional form of Japanese poetry that captures a single moment in nature. A stray cat asleep on the roof in the spring rain. You know, there are 17 syllables in a haiku. A haiku was the first part of a poem structure that was actually called a haikai. The haikai had the haiku as part of it. The haiku was then extracted and made into an entity of its own. And there were a few very, very well-known haiku poets. And this book is from all of those very, very well-known haiku poets. This one, you can see I got here, it's okay for lever harp. So I'm going to move down to a flash of lightning, the sound of dew. This one also is okay for lever harp. And it's just the quiet human presence within the natural world. I wish that humans were a little quieter in the natural world. I think the natural world would be a better place if humans were a little quieter, but that's just my opinion. Going on to Issa. Issa was a haiku poet. He experienced many hardships. So his poetry is a little bit, I like it. It's just a little bit different. And so he's got this into the bonfires, flutter the tinted leaves, very faintly there. And I can get this handout to you. You can see the scale. I don't know if you can see that scale right now, but that scale is right there that's based on. Being chased, the firefly hides in the moon. It's very sparse here, but you can see the scale. I put the scale on there. You will all get these handouts so you can see the scale that all of these are based on. Sweeping the garden, the snow is forgotten by the broom. Right here. This one has an F flat. It's constantly going F flat, F natural, F flat, F natural in the pedals. I don't think it's playable on lever harp. Here's this explanation on early haikai and how the haiku came from it. I just kind of stuck that in there. This is an Issa. Striking the fly, I also hit a flowering plant. He's got a heart. And it's like, oh, I hit a plant. I shouldn't have been trying to strike the fly in the first place, you know? But it's what it's based on. There's the scale that it's based on. The sparrows are playing hide and seek among the tea flowers. Okay, this is the notation. It's like tablature. Whatever's in the box, you play. It's not regular notation. You can play this all on the lever harp except for this right here. You guys can all see this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In that box, it said, move these pedals rapidly or loudly. Well, you can't do that. So you'll have to figure something else to do in that spot with your levers. But it's the sparrows are playing hide and seek among the tea flowers. So here's a tea flower. I planted a tea flower one time, but that was when we had this terrible drought in Houston and I just couldn't keep it watered enough. But if you have a shrub like this and you let it get big, these can get 50 feet tall. If you cut out areas in it, that let the birds go in, the birds will live in there. So that's why this particular one appeals to me so much. I had Japanese boxwoods in front of my house in Houston, in Cyprus, and I had the ugliest Japanese boxwoods because I cut out little areas so the birds could get in, and the birds loved it. So I had the ugliest Japanese boxwoods, but the happiest birds in the neighborhood. The frog jumps in. There's a scale that it's based on. Like I said, you'll get that. You'll get all these handouts. I love this. After the moon viewing, my shadow walking home along with me. There's the scale that it's based off of. Not sure you can do it on lever harp. Same thing with here. Not sure if this is playable on lever harp. Pearls of Dew. Lever harp is okay on that one. Distant lights, they live in this autumn night. This one you can play on lever harp if you tune your D's to D flat. Most of us don't do that. In England, I think they do that, but here that they don't. Here's the glossary of symbols. This is all on your handout. And I am very quickly going to play part of, I'll stop my screen share. Stop the share. Okay, here I am again. I will play a little bit of this. One thing is it says you can use a screwdriver or the metal shaft of your tuning key. If you use a screwdriver that's rusty, not going to work. It gets caught on the strings and it does not sound good. So it's probably not good for the strings either. And with strings being so expensive, you don't want it. Okay, so I'll play a little. I don't know if I'm situated where you can see me, and maybe that's a good thing. All right.
Your tuning
So
key technique was beautiful.
thank you. Thank you. Yes, and it's not rusty. So Okay, so now we're going to talk about the graded recital pieces, which I will share that with you, and hopefully you will be able to see that. Let's see, go back to here. Da 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 da, graded recital pieces. Okay, and you all have these handouts. I mean, you'll get lots of handouts. I think I went through all of her music. Um, Natalie and I agree that we don't think that book one is easy. I don't know how to teach book one, so I just don't think it's easy. And Natalie, I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, but you're gonna talk about that later. Um, but here are the titles in volume one. Um, One thing that I find that really bothers me is when they say this is okay for a lever harp, and then they ask you to put on a B sharp and an E sharp, and you can't do that because you're tuned in F or you're tuned in E flat. So that's what some of these are there. You see this tuned in B sharp and E sharp, but that's volume one, and the pieces are beautiful. I just have a hard time playing them and teaching them. Volume two, the Green Book. Everyone, not everyone, but I'm sure a lot of you know processional. It's very easy. It's based on fifths. You go up, you go down. It's pretty easy, and there's nice big chords and glissando. So it's very impressive and it's not easy, but it's not hard. And I play it on gigs all the time. I think it's important to know that there's an orchestra part that has been written for it that has a piano reduction. Ballade. This piece is wonderful. You can skip out two sections of it, and I probably should scan this for you guys. But if you skip two sections of it, you can play the whole thing on lever harp. And it's pretty long that way. If you add the section that's got the G natural and the B flat in it for pedal harp, it's playable also. Volume three is Blue. I Go by Color. I don't know too much about volume three because I didn't know I had it until I discovered it the other day. I went, oh, that's interesting. Volume four is excellent also. It's got the two guitars, which is very impressive piece to play, and the saber dance also. It's worthwhile knowing that two guitars and toccata have orchestra parts for your school orchestra and a piano reduction. So I've never heard them played. I'm sure they're on YouTube, but I have not heard them played in person. I thought one of my students was going to get a chance to do processional, but that didn't happen. And then volume five is Pink, and it's got this petite suite in it, and that's that. You'll get this handout, and Natalie is going to talk about one of the pieces in particular, and I'm going to stop the share. And Natalie, we tested her harp, so I think that it's going to work. I'm going to put you on Spotlight, and I am going to put me off of Spotlight. Okay, there we go.
All right. So, Moonlight in volume one, I do give to my very first students, though I'm down to two students now because I'm retiring from teaching. But they're wonderful people and they're good friends, and so I'm staying with them. But Moonlight is very successful, I have experienced, because it has easy to see intervals in the fifths traveling up the harp. Blue, red, white. And then red, blue, red, white on the second line. So having the students learn to not just stay in one place and to actually be in their first lesson, placing fifths. It's not hard, it's just a matter of doing it. And also, it gets rid of the fear of traveling the instrument. So you're not staying in one octave to learn beginner stuff. You're in the low all the way up to the high part of the harp. It also is an opportunity to learn a little bit of left-hand melody down on line 3. The melody is a bass line melody and comes through if the glissandos are quiet. And then it has glisses, So 2 beats down, 2 beats up throughout the measure for 4 measures. And this teaches, I find, arm movement, and that the arm is doing the glissing, not the fingers. Though, of course, thumbs are up and second finger is below the thumb. And that has been very valuable. And then the gliss is going down on line 4, left, right, left, right. So that sense of trading off the hands. And the creative types will go to town with making something more happen with those patterns, but it's really lovely to hear. And in the end, it's a very satisfying piece of music. And so I find myself warming up on this at gigs, background gigs, because it's so easy to listen to. Let me get my pillow so I can sit a little higher. I'm on my Style 15 pedal harp. So let me just play a couple of notes and see if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to play what's written, pretty much. Then I'm going to do my little verse 2 the way I like to make it evolve into a little bit more.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any tips on what you tell your students in terms of any like words that you find that they get? You know how sometimes kids or adults don't get something. Do you have any words, single words or phrases that work well?
I'm not sure I know what you mean, though I do have them say sometimes what direction they're going, like up, 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 when they're not, their body isn't doing it. Say the direction you're going, and the same with going down, or down, up, left, right, down, up, things like that, directional instructions. Nothing else is coming to mind at the moment.
That
Well,
was good.
levering,
Thank you.
actually. I played a Bach piece at I guess it was when we hosted the convention here in San Francisco, and I found that by saying the direction I was moving the levers, other than solfeging the lever, like saying when I'm moving a G or a C or whatever, I memorized those levers much faster and learned them quicker. But I also said I would go through the music saying up, down, up, and when it comes to pedals, it's the opposite of what pedals are. You're going into sharp and naturals when you're going down. You're going into flats when you're going up. But instructing yourself what your body is doing with a directional movement. That's all I can think of at the moment.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Thank you so
Welcome.
much. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to put myself back on Spotlight and I'm going to talk about now Harp Olympics. And oh, did I freeze? I froze up. No, I didn't freeze. Okay. So in the Harp Olympics, it's color coded. I don't know if you can see, but there's a green section and there's a red section. So kids like that. And there are, it's based on Olympics. There's personal fouls, and she talks about how personal fouls are buzzing. And, you know, a lot of times we don't listen for buzzing. And you can tell that she was really focused on good tone. I think the thing that I was very impressed with in Harp Olympics at the very beginning is, in the Betty Parrott first harp book, okay, she's got that page where you put your fingers on and you play one note at a time while all the other fingers are on. I've never had a student who has gotten that. And when I saw this, that all the fingers that you put on the strings and keep there are in a box. I thought that was really quite brilliant. But the thing about this that I like, I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but she's got the exercises written out where you play one finger at a time, which to some of us that can be really boring, but there are so many adult students who do not understand that when you're playing the harp, you have to constantly look ahead. They're focused on only on what they're doing. This, I think, is brilliant because it allows you to memorize this and to actually analyze what comes next while you're doing this because you can see it's long on the paper. And to me, I think that that's a signal to the student that, okay, I have time. I have time to look ahead and see what's coming next. So I really was very, very impressed with that. Another way that she's got those exercises where you keep one finger on the string and the other finger moves is clear. It's so clear. It's visually very clear. And if it needs explanation, it needs very little explanation. So that is what I am impressed with on this. It's got a section of, okay, so it's got theory. It's like all of your piano books rolled into one. You know how the Faber books, there you have your performance book, you've got your gold performance book, you have your theory book, you have your lesson book, and all of a sudden the kids got this stack of music and they're slippery and they fall all over the place. Well, this is all in one place, which I like very much. The first solo, so yes, I have to put a smiley face that's not really a smiley face because it's got the famous B sharp and E sharp on it, but it's okay. I'm sure that there is a way that that can be, accounted for and you can figure that out, how to work with that. So that is, this is stage one. And so then I skipped over to Harp Olympics stage two. These books are fairly expensive. But what I liked about page 11, once again, and I'm not sure, I mean, I learned how to play rolled chords, yes, but I didn't have them written out this way where you could, like here, it's like, oh yeah, I've never seen it written out. I always just did it in my mind and with my eyes and my fingers, but I never visualized how to learn rolled chords, and it's there. So I thought that was very good. This is okay. A lot of students, especially adults, they don't understand the value of replacing, looking ahead and replacing. But uh, she gives it a name, four finger pivots. And I'm sure that all of you do that too, but I've just not ever seen it in a method book. So I like that. What else do I like about this? Okay. Then she gets to the solos, and a lot of the solos are playable on lever harp. But this one, I re-edited this, so I'm going to send this to you. I just found out that all of the F sharps can be changed to an A, and then this is playable on lever harp. So I re-edited that, and I think I think I've already sent that to you. I'm not sure. And I think that might be all in this book. Oh no, I love the repertoire because I played piano for a lot longer than I played harp, and I was taught by the School Sisters of St. Francis, and they were very strict. And so we learned all kinds of repertoire, but I love that the Bartok, they put the Bartok in here. So the kids are learning some really good repertoire. I like that. And I have a couple more post-it notes that I wanted to talk about. Um, of course, like the little fountain, the same in both hands. I think this is such a very important concept to learn when your hands, when you can sort of take it easy because your hands have the same shape. That's a very important concept to learn. So that is a solo called Fantasy by Susann McDonald. And this is just a personal comment that I am making. So there's Silent Night in here. I have found in my teaching since 2016 when I was I was a staff pianist at a school in Podunk, Texas. I would drive to Podunk 3 times a week. The kids did not know any Christmas songs. They did not know Silent Night. They did not know Joy to the World. So I was unable to teach a descending scale. Do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. I couldn't teach that. Well, I could, but they did not know Joy to the World. So I think it just kind of shows that this is in a day when people knew Christmas music, but kids don't necessarily know. Most of my students are Vietnamese. They do not do Christmas. So it's just interesting that this is a lovely arrangement of Silent Night. Don't get me wrong. It is lovely. Harp for today. I'll just go through a few of these things. I really didn't study this book, so I don't know what to tell you too much about it. The typesetting is exquisite. So I'm going to talk a little bit about typesetting. I don't mean to bore you, but I want to talk a little bit about typesetting. And I mentioned this at the very beginning. Anyone can typeset now. Anyone can publish music, but it doesn't always have integrity because we as harpists, when we look at a piece of music, it has to make sense to us. It has to be almost geometric. We need to be able to see this chunk goes here, this chunk goes there. And if it's not like that, then it makes no sense to us. So the typesetting in this book is absolutely beautiful. It is exquisite. Let's give you a few examples. I will show you the table of contents. This is a $65 book. I would not get this book for a student unless I knew they were very serious about advancing, becoming an advanced student. But you can see the table of contents. I hope you can see this. It looks pretty blurry to me, but I'm seeing it on my computer. And as I said, the typesetting is beautiful. Here are the pictures of them. I know, I know. I never really ever even I never even spoke to Susan McDonald, but Linda Wood. I'll tell you a story about Linda. We were in at Melodies and we couldn't get their music. We were the person who was supposed to be in charge of shipping their music was not responding. And I was making phone calls all over the place. And I finally thought, do I dare call Linda Wood Rollo? Do I dare call her and complain, you know? And I did. I called her and I was trying to be very nice, but I said, there is something going on. And I said, and I said, there are other stores too. See, no one was telling her. There were other stores that were having the same problem. And I said, we can't get your music. And she said, she was so kind, so gracious, so friendly to me. And I will always remember that because she said, I will take care of this right now. And she did. She took care of it. And before you knew it, they had someone else in charge of shipping their music. And that person is still the one that's doing it. And she is great. And we've never had a problem since then. But man, Natalie, was she the type of person that if there was a problem, she took care of it right away?
Absolutely. Linda took
Oh,
responsibility and
yeah.
taught us to do the same. Yes.
Yeah, that was just wonderful and I was so relieved because I thought, oh, do I dare complain? I didn't want to complain, but anyway, we can look at a couple of more things real quick. I think I'll share the screen and we'll just look at a couple of more of the handouts. Let me find that. You can see my messy, messy computer. Um, Harp for today. We did that. We did that. Okay. The Dushek and the Scarlatti. This is very interesting. They retypeset the Dushek. These are the same Dushek I spelt that wrong. Sonatinas that we've been using for years and years. But like Natalie was saying, they were very concerned about the individual and the artisticness. And so they made them for smaller hands. If there was this root fifth tenth that would tire small hands, they put it into a first inversion chord. So, and the typesetting on that is exquisite. The Scarlatti, the typesetting is wonderful. And they took great pains in going through the TOC means table of contents. But they they went through and they used the Kirkpatrick categorization, but they also still have the old Longo categorization in their book. So if you are used to that categorization, and there's a little explanation of that here. I just find that very interesting. The valse in E flat is another difficult pedal harp solo. It was written by Durand. Have you heard of Durand? Publisher, the French
Yeah.
publisher Durand. That's who it's written by. So I always find that interesting too. And if anyone is interested, if you look at the history of the French publishers, Lemoyne, Leduc, Durand, and I can't remember the other one. Very, very interesting. And even Leduc, during the war, they took their plates, their metal plates, and they took them to the south of France and put them in a shallow river so that because if the Germans had gotten them, they would have used them to make ammunition. So that's isn't that interesting?
Oh,
I should be talking about that now because that has nothing to do with this, but it's a little bit interesting. That's why I thought, oh, this Durand, I have great respect for the French publishers. And then there's the Spanish music. You'll get these handouts. I didn't really go into it because, they're not easy. They are not easy pieces. Let's go back here and let's go to Sacred Organ, and then we'll have some time for questions if you would like to ask questions. I found that the sacred favorites for harp and organ, the organ part was too harpistic. So my organist, we just closed the book and never opened it up again. I don't know, Laura, did you try that one at all?
Yes, they are, and they're fabulous arrangements. They're a handful, but well worth it if you want to put the time in.
Okay, okay. Yeah, my organist she just said, this looks like harp music. I don't want to play this. So she didn't. It's okay. That's okay. The music for worship and weddings, I forgot to look when those were copyrighted, but this goes back to publishing music. Back when I was in college, there was not that much music to choose from. And most of it was this difficult concert repertoire. And I have all these books, but I don't play all this stuff anymore because I don't want to work that hard. So music for worship and weddings, and then their Christmas music. So you will get that, and if you haven't gotten it already, and here's the pastorelle that I re-edited. You will get this. This is from Harp Olympics Volume 3, our Stage 3. And what else do we have here? I think that that's it. So anyway, I'm going to stop the share. And does anyone have any questions? I will add the spotlight to Natalie. I'm going to remove my spotlight because I don't think I have anything else to say. Does anybody have any questions? Please ask some questions.
There were just a
Just
couple of things from the chat, if you want to address those first.
yes. And can
Okay.
I get to the chat? Laura, you do that, please. Thank you.
Sure.
You're good.
Well, yeah, just from Elizabeth, who I think had to leave. She said she was having trouble reading your written in scores at the top of the haikus, where you wrote out the scales for Lever Harp, and she was wondering if she could just get another PDF with it darkened so she could read it.
Yeah,
Um,
I can do that.
yeah, and then they're a little bit faint. I saw that. And then from Charlotte, she's just asking if anyone has any clues for quick and efficient memorizing. So maybe,
Natalie, that's your thing. You're going to
yeah.
be talking. I think Natalie's going to be doing a Harp Teachers Gathering on memorization.
In
Yes.
maybe
Fabulous.
January, yeah. Sing the melody, sing the notes. If you're not going to be transposing it into another key, pick your key and sing the melody by the notes. In rhythm, of course. It doesn't have to be up to speed at first. Um, then you can sing the colors as you go along. Like twinkle would be red, red, white, 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 blue, blue, white, 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 red, And even with classical music, that works. And I have a whole bunch of stuff on my memorization page. If you want to send me an email, I can scan it and send it off. I teach Skyboat with that particular handout, but I taught this up at Dusty Strings in Seattle, and I use visual things to help memorization, tactile muscle memory ways, and then purely auditory ways. So it's pretty comprehensive. And I love teaching memorization. Would love to help.
We'll look forward to that one. Yeah, yeah. Is there anything else? It's right now, it's 4 o'clock, so I think we did like perfectly on our timing. Nothing else? Okay, well, I think that thank everybody for being here. I hope you learned a lot, and I will make a darker scale on the haiku. And thank you, everybody, and thank you, Laura, for being co-host and helping out with that. I couldn't get the chat to. I was having challenges today.
It's too much at one time. Could I ask just one other quick question of Natalie?
Yeah.
I stumbled across your husband's arrangements a couple of years ago when I was looking for music for harp and cello. So I would love to know if you guys have anything new coming out. Just keep us informed.
Right now, if you go to Melodies, you'll see lots of new stuff. Like
Fabulous. Okay.
huge collections of cello and harp, 2 volumes of cello and harp duets, and then lots more flute, harp, and cello as well. A lot of it is recorded, and some of it is new, and I can't play with flute anymore because the flute blew out my left ear. It came back with prednisone, but I'm not going back into the studio or concert hall with flute. But anyway, there is a lot there. So it's up. Not all of it is on Nick. You could send me an email and I'll list things that composers and pieces that are not carried yet as well.
Okay,
So
fabulous. Thank you.
great. Welcome. So glad you found those. And they're
Oh,
all
yeah.
by Dan, basically. Those are Dan's, not mine. I
Well,
did
great.
the harp editing. He did the arranging and composing.
I assumed they're edited very well. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, and Natalie has inspired me. We're going to revamp the front page of the Afghan Press website. And Mary Muckle, you have been up on the front of the Afghan Press website for 4 years. Do you know that? And so I'm going to make a little change and put Natalie and Dan's music up there. And I'm going to try to change things a little bit more often than once every 4 years. Maybe only 3 years, but so you guys, if you want to see Mary Muckle's stuff, go to AfghanPressMusic.com and all of Mary Muckle's things are up there.
Looking forward to seeing it and hearing it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. This was delightful. I appreciate all of your patience, and we will see you next time when Laura is going to be doing the Harp Teachers Gathering on. Laura, do you want to just talk real briefly about that?
Yes, so along with Keela Walton, I am a co-host for or co-chair for the American Harp Society National event next summer. It's going to be hosted here in Dallas, and it is entirely focused on harp ensemble. We have a big festival format planned, so you can come form a harp ensemble, come and play, or just come and attend the event and listen to all the wonderful, amazing performances. So we'll be going into a lot of depth about that event in the September Harp Teacher Gathering and just how you can participate and kind of the plans that we have. So we're looking forward to sharing more about it.
We look forward to it. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Natalie, so much. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.